No, it's not.
To order, we will work to be pretty concise tonight. As you see, we have a pretty full agenda, and we will move through it as we can. Please feel free to have whatever conversation deemed necessary on each topic, and we'll get as much presented. There's a lot of information in front of you. So we will start with Maggie Webb. Maggie Webb is with Cunningham Recreation. This is the Imagination Station playground remodel. This is, as you remember, the replacement of the wood structures. We had budgeted $350,000 into the budget for this work. We received a grant for $44,000. This Cunningham Structures does not provide the roundy round thing that you wanted. Merry-go-round, sorry. And so Christina will be working to do that as a separate scope of work, and we will coordinate with these contractors to get it installed. And so you'll see in the pricing tonight, we've left money out to do that.
I appreciate it.
So we're getting there, but that's why it's not in tonight's presentation.
Years.
Yes. I'll turn it over to Ms. Webb.
All right, well, thank you guys for having me tonight. Good to see everybody and excited to talk about
Grab the mic.
Imagination Station.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So I wanted to just start off a little bit about myself. I'm Maggie Webb. I am with Cunningham Recreation, representing Game Time Playgrounds, which is a Playcore company. I've been with Cunningham almost 4 years now, covering Middle and West Tennessee first for about 3.5 years, and then moved back home to Chattanooga last summer, now covering the east side of the state. So excited to be here and talk about playgrounds I grew up on. And yeah, let's get started. So you guys are going to get a refresh to the 2 to 5 area at Imagination Station. And when working with the Public Works team on this proposal, we decided it would be a really good fit to apply for the Tennessee Parks and Rec Association state initiative funding through Game Time and TRPA. Christina actually came to our session and sat there, and that's how you guys are eligible to apply and receive the additional funds. So thanks, Christina. Anyways, the site will meet NDS for Play On. So your 5 to 12 playground actually already is a national demonstration site. You guys were the very first one Playcore ever did back in the day. So this has a lot of new improvements to the program. You're going to see Playcore now will wrap up 3 different reports for you all. So you'll have an initial impact report. This will come to you as soon as the park is ordered. It's going to show demographics of the area. We'll talk about obesity, disability, every single statistic around where the park's going to be placed. So you'll receive this first. You'll then get a baseline outcomes report. This will come 60 days after the park opens. This is data driven off of mobility from people's cell phones. So it will show where they come before the park, where they go when they left the park. I'm going to help you guys really track who your users are. And then the third report you'll get is once you have 50 scans off this QR code sign, which will be installed at the playground, you'll get an actual visitor outcome report. So this is going to be their sentiment, what they like about the space, how often they come, how long they stay when they come, who they bring, those type of questions. And this is all for you guys for your benefit. So when you come to meetings like this, you're able to talk about the ROI on the playground, which is something we haven't been able to capture for many years. So that's a little bit about the statewide initiative and what this park is going to bring for you all. Like I said, it's designed to meet NGS Play On. So PlayCorps worked with Shape America to create 6 key elements based off of research that they found were important to foster the growth of the whole child in this playground area. So you'll also be sent one of these curriculum books, and this has 125 lesson plans in it. Your teachers, if you want to share it with schools, or your programmers at community centers, can come out to the playground and find an element and do an outdoor activity and teach kids out there. So this is packed with different lesson plans, and like I said, you'll be receiving one of those as well. The 6 key elements are balancing, sliding, brachiating, which is a fancy word for pulling up, spinning, sliding, and climbing. So I'm going to walk you through the design and where you can find each of these in your design, along with some additional features that we added. So first we can chat about colors. I can leave this up to you guys once I head out of here, but this is a couple different color options. The first one is a very bright color scheme, super different than what is currently out at the site. We also rendered it for you all in the color palette that's already there, so the browns, neutrals, dark colors, and then we did a happy medium with the brown decks and nature tones, but still had a spring green and pop of bright blue. So we can do any sort of colors you guys wish for the play space. Here's a top view. This just shows you the overall layout of the space. In the top view, you'll see that each of those 6 elements is outlined, so you'll see where you can find the brachiating, sliding, swinging. All of those have been highlighted in this top view. All right, we'll start with balancing. So in your proposal, we've included these pods for balancing, so a child's able to transfer from these pods onto the playground unit. And balancing really provides muscle strength and helps kids build endurance throughout their whole body. So that's one of the most important elements. We've included sliding. We have 2 different types of slides. You have actually this double slide on your unit, and then you have a taller straight slide on there as well. So that gives a variance and challenge for different age children. Brachiating. These are the therapeutic rings that you'll find underneath the deck here in the proposal. This helps with hand-eye coordination and rhythmic body movement for children. So you'll also notice when you're looking at the ground level activities, we have quite a few other amenities for kids to play with while they're underneath the playground. Maybe they can play with these musical instruments. We have a storefront panel down there for some imaginative play. We really tried to design the space so that you don't always have to transfer onto the unit to get some play value. Spinning, this is one of my favorite pieces. This is the leaf spinner. It goes on theme with nature out there. So it promotes intergenerational play. You can have a kid and another child pushing one another. You can have a parent pushing a kid on this spinner. It's a really fun piece, and it also helps children learn the importance of speed and force. Climbers. We have a ton of different climbers, as you'll see on this piece. I highlighted this leaning wall climber here, but we made sure to include climbers that also have a variance of challenge in them as well for different children and their abilities. So these promote muscular strength and flexibility. Swinging, you guys have my favorite swing out there already, the expression swing. These swings are not going to leave the space. They're going to stay inside the area, and you'll keep your 2 top seats and then your 2 expression swings out there. A couple other items that we've included in the space. music, so you have the harmonic chimes, which are precision tuned. That'll be integrated within the space. You can see them in this corner. And then the drums and bongos underneath the play area, under those decks that children are able to play with. This is also really nice inclusive piece to add into the play environment. So somebody might not have to transfer out of their mobility device to be able to play with these chimes. A mushroom seating area, this promotes imaginative play, also on theme with our nature trend we're doing out there. So this can create a cozy spot for a kid who might have sensory needs and want to retreat from the playground area for a minute and just observe what's going on out there. So it's a really nice the sensory wave climber. This is the industry's actually first inclusive climber. So we have a transfer at the bottom, and then there are molded grips throughout the climber. So children of all buildings are able to pull themselves and mobilize up the unit and reach the top of the deck. You can also integrate different sensors within there later on. It's not included in the package today, but say you want to include a sensor within this panel, somebody can be in their mobility device from down below and play with that sensor in there. So. Animal trackers, this was a fun addition to the park. This is for some cognitive play. You're able to spin the wheel there and it generates energy to then allow you to hear different sounds from North American animals. So you can hear the owl, the coyote, the wolf. It's a freestanding piece over here to the side of the unit. The dragonfly, this piece is already out at the side as well, and it's going to stay. It's a super fun piece that allows kids to seesaw on the wings, or they can balance across the body. Really love the dragonfly piece. Some additional amenities that are going to come are shade. As you can see, we've included quite a bit of shade throughout the playground area, integrated into the unit, and then freestanding. And then some new benches and picnic tables will be added to the space and outside of the space. Lastly, board and play surfacing. So this is on the 5 to 12 area. We're going to come in and do a recap, a half-inch recap to that board and play surfacing. We're going to re-include all of the graphics that are out there. And then we'll do a HIC and a GMAX test. So we'll drop a ball from the tallest deck to test the surfacing and make sure it meets all compliance and standards. These are the quotes, very just screenshot overview, but I can send those out if anybody else can see a close-up of them. You can see the state required initiative funding of $44,000 applied to the playground proposal. This is the port in place proposal. And then lastly, we have the installation proposal. And the installer who will be doing the installation actually did the 5 to 12-year-old playground installation as well. So they're excited to be back on the site and have a good lay for the land and have already made their site visits for this playground as well.
Can we get that for me, not anybody else, but for me, I cannot even read that.
Yes.
If you put $1 million there, I could not read that.
Okay.
So if you'd send me one per page or something that's
Okay.
blown up, that would be helpful.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's right at 300,000
Yes.
For the total.
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 What type of material are you going to use for what you were talking about doing the surface with? What are you going to lay that with?
It's a rubber surfacing port in place.
Okay.
So it's what's currently out there. It'll just be right back on top so you don't see all those cracks and where weeds can grow through.
Okay.
Does this take into consideration the fence as well?
That's not part of this.
Okay.
We've got several fencing projects that'll be outside of this scope
Okay, that will go.
on the backside and along the sidewalk in front, so that the concerns of children running across the
Right.
greenway during events such as 5Ks is eliminated.
So are we going to remove all the wood or just?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
We're getting all the rotten out. We're leaving the stuff that was replaced, how many years ago? 9 or 10-ish years ago. And then this replaces the remaining wood. And as you see, there's a big focus on ADA and inclusive play here, and the shade aspects, the benches, et cetera.
Well, that's what-
I think we should save the handprints. I don't know, there's still handprints up there
Yes.
in the woods.
So our intention is, because they're actually mitered replicas of the ones that were originally put in the 90s, our intention is to take them down, do a call to the public for some length of time. If somebody wants to come get one, they can. At some point in the future, we'll quit storing them, but absolutely plan to put them to the side and ask folks to come get them, and then we'll just cut them and go from there.
So like you can put a individually, I'm thinking of like not a sign, but an encasement, where just some of them might be there, some of the prints, just so that it,
Our intention was to give them back to the kids whose handprints they are, that are now grown adults, for them to
And
do
get
as they
rid of them.
please.
just get rid of them altogether.
They'll come off the playground, but
Yeah.
there are lots of adults now whose handprints were there when they were children.
Yeah.
Let them come get them. But it wasn't to remodel them and rebuild a fence.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's all I have today. As you can see, we really thought through the design of this park, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more. If you have any questions, I'll put my info out there, and I'd be happy to help.
So are we going to vote on the color of this, or?
So I would ask, if you have an opinion on color, shoot it to me. I'll get the consensus of the group. The color does not affect pricing, and then we'll bring the pricing schedule to you at the next commission meeting. And we'll get you probably tomorrow copies that you can read in more detail.
Okay, I'll
Is
shoot
there
it to
only
you now.
like one of those spinners?
There is only one of the spinners. You're going to have that merry-go-round as separate.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there
Talking
any?
about the leaf spinner, right?
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Do we want to decide the color or put
I
a
would-
vote out to the public, kind of like Red Bank did with their playground? They posted the designs and kind of got public input.
How quickly do we need to make this decision?
If you were to vote on it next week, we would need to make it this week. If we wanted to put a poll out for 10 days, we would just push it 2 weeks. That doesn't affect anything other than pushing it 2 weeks. I'm happy to do either.
Just make it bright.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the primary colors are better, and I'll tell
I
you.
don't like the
Yeah.
bland colors. I like the pops
And
where it looks good.
yeah, and for the fact that it's got the multicolored, for visually impaired, those that can only go by shades, they can tell, even colorblind.
Mhm.
They can see the difference where one
The
item
hues.
starts and
Mhm.
and it makes it safer.
So if the commission is happy with giving that feedback to Ms. Wells, we can let them spec what they believe meets that the best, and we can bring it next week for purchasing approval. That's ends in a question mark. I know it sounds like a statement.
I am going to send it to you now.
I'm just curious, does this not have to go through bidding out or?
They're sole source. We ran that through Sam earlier. I'm not sure yet on the merry-go-round.
This, to be honest with you, this is a very good price.
I'm just
I've-
making sure that, we're doing it
State
right.
law.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. We ran that through Sam before. What is the name of the program? Yes. So,
It is, and this is what elementary schools use. I know with Hamilton County, when I was with them, I helped with the building program for playgrounds
Mhm.
and raising money for them, so.
So let me ask you, of the municipalities, schools that are putting these playgrounds in, what are the typical colors? Do most go with the multicolored bright playgrounds? Is there, to make ours a little different, would blue and green set us apart?
I would say most people go with the spring green, spring blue palette. A lot of people stick to the neutral colors, or most schools honestly go with their school colors. So it's hard to just put a blanket on it. It's
Right.
up to what you guys like, and if you want it to match what's out there, or if you want it to be, completely vibrant, different than what's adjacent to it. So I would say most people then stick with 2 or 3 colors instead of multiple different colors.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of making ours look a little bit different, make it stand out.
Yes, this definitely would stand out. It kind of matches your sign too, the different colors.
Yeah.
It's not I don't think it'll fade as quickly. When it faded, it's like it's worn out. Which is-
Red fades the fastest in the
Yeah.
plastic, so that's why I put the uprights and then it'll be
Yeah.
red.
So what was the consensus on colors? We're going to let Ms. Wells spec it, or we were going to do a survey?
I'm indifferent.
I am completely
I like
indifferent. so.
all multiple color for me. Yeah, the one that pops to me, it's kind of catches your eyes.
It's a little bit more distinctive than having the colors from school, because schools are, like I said, most of they had that would blend in with the color of the school, what their school colors were, the mascot or whatever, which is appropriate.
Mhm.
You know, we're not a school.
I do feel like the green and the browns would weather better, though.
What's the durable life of the colors on these, you think?
I mean, it shouldn't be too bad, but like I said, I don't have an exact number on that, but the plastics that would be red or yellow are gonna go the first in color. So that's why we've stuck to orange and greens for the plastics in this and blues, and then done the yellow and red on the metal.
It's easier to paint them when you need to repair
Yes.
them,
Absolutely.
red and yellow.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. And
Thank you
we'll
very
send out those
much.
pricing sheets this week. Next on the agenda tonight is a permit and development fee increase that Andrew's going to present for us.
So in front of each of you, I've put a copy of ordinance 1148 that Sam helped Jason and I put together, that he has reviewed and given his okay over regarding permit, plan review, inspection and development increase. The last grouping of papers is a comparative of what our current fees are versus what we're looking at going to. Several months ago, MTS came in and did an analysis with us. And much to our surprise, there was a $340,000 difference that expenses exceeded revenue. And I've been here 15 years, and in the 15 years I've been here, none of these fees we have increased up to this point. And we're just looking at increasing fees to match what's around us. So we don't want to be above what's around us. We just want to be kind of comparable. And that was kind of our logic behind that. We've discussed with Wayne as well. And Wayne, myself, Chris, and Jason were all kind of in agreement with what these particular fees have been set at.
Can you get us something that shows what our other neighboring municipalities are charging?
Did you hear that?
Could you get us something that shows what the other municipalities are charging, so we can look at them side by side?
So basically, if you look at that comparative, I would say safely that probably 90 to 95% of the proposed permit fee increases are identical to Hamilton County. Now, Jason could kind of speak to the development fee changes as to what those differences are. But with maybe one or two fee items, they're pretty much identical to Hamilton County. What they are is where we got our information from. And we thought, especially being adjacent to Hamilton County, that was kind of a rationale in matching what theirs are.
Did you get the ones for the other cities, though, or just the county?
We used the county and Lakeside.
Okay.
Do you want the others?
I mean, I would like to see them.
Okay, we'll pull them for you.
Sure.
And if you can pull them off and email them.
Yeah,
that'd
yeah,
be
we'll
good.
just email them out.
You could check on their website. Get them.
Yes, they're all there.
That would save paper.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we'll send you a PDF of it later this week with everything compiled. Really, the onus of this was to start the conversation. As we talked during the budgeting process, we knew there was a shortage in development fees, and we knew that taxes were supplementing that growth. And then MTS did a study which confirmed it. And again, our goal when we were presenting the change in fees was to copy, not create, not to be far out ahead of anyone else. And so as Andrew said, most of the in-house, most of the permit fees that would come from building construction are copied directly from the county. We used Lakeside for the ones that would come across Jason's desk, as Kirsten is much more familiar than some of the other municipalities, and the effort and the volume at the county on subdivision plats and the staffing they have to do it. It's not really a fair comparison to a staff of one. So again, we copied on almost everything. We are not proposing to change the land development fees that were updated 5 or 6 years ago to copy the state. And so again, we just consistently copied across everything, but we'll compile those fees for y'all this week and get them sent out. Do you have any heartburn if we bring this at next commission meeting, or would you like 2 weeks to review those fees?
I'd like to review.
Okay, we'll push it 2 weeks after we get that out to you and bring it. Are there any more questions on it?
I think we're smart to get ahead of this and try to at least be comparable to what other municipalities are charging, because there's no sense in leaving money on the table.
Agree completely. And as y'all are aware, there is a ton of growth in the pipe. And so doing it now before those 700 or so homes come online rather than after makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I have a question about the new push to have the contractors be able to hire their own. Will their fees be comparable to ours then, or will there be a difference so that they don't use our individuals, our
So-
employees?
This law is replete with problems. Lots and lots of municipalities push back against it. I want to say the state building officials group push back against it as well. We deem there to be a conflict of interest when the builder or developer hires their own sub to then review for code adherence and then inspect for code adherence. And what those charges are, I can't imagine them being less than us. The argument for them from the governor's office was that it took too long and the time value of money was too great. And that argument may be true when you're talking 60-story high rises. In Hamilton County, us and all of our peers, as far as we know, have basically a next day turnaround on inspections. And we are all under 30 days on comment reviews. The only organization I'm aware of in Hamilton County that is typically over 30 days on a plan review is TDOT, who are absolutely outside of that review. It's to the point now that we were talking to a developer the other day who's going to have his boring permit from the railroad before he has a driveway permit from TDOT. So to answer your question, I expect the developer will pay more money to their subs with the goal being faster or a cheaper workaround. And I would not be surprised if that law ends up in court as a public safety issue, because the law at this point is expecting us to still issue a CO on something we've never inspected. And so it'll either end up in court or local municipalities will refuse. They'll throw it on the state fire marshal, and the state fire marshal will become inundated and not be able to turn things around in the window as well. So I know that's a long-winded explanation to say it's a really bad law. It's pretty unsafe in most folks that work in this space. And we wait to see what the courts decide. No one has applied yet with us or any of our small cities looking to get around us.
At the convention, I was sitting at a table waiting for a meeting to begin, and there were a couple of gentlemen sitting there talking about it, and they were very much anti. And they were from one of the counties smaller counties.
Yeah. Again, the only examples that were given to us over the last year were Metro Nashville examples where the local municipality was taking too long. And to play devil's advocate, I just can't imagine what a reasonable review time is on a 60-story high rise to look at mechanical, electrical, structural, et cetera. For a building of that magnitude, it's more than 2 weeks. It just has to be. But none of the other small municipalities, I know if we get a phone call, we're either out there same day or next morning. Hamilton County is the same. Saudi's the same. There's no speed to be gained. Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing from this is we will push this to the second meeting next month for a vote, and Andrew will compile the other fees for you. Just pull each of them off the website, put them in a PDF, and then email them to the commissioner's email address for your information.
Thank you.
Sure.
If there's nothing else, we'll move on. Apologies for being direct. I'm trying to keep us moving. Number 3 tonight is a subdivision regulations update. When the decision was made during the budgeting process to focus on the strategic plan rather than a full rewrite of the subdivision regulations. We identified some areas that needed some Band-Aids. That is simply what this is. And Chris, our new Public Works Director, will go through them at a very high level. It's some minor revisions to incorporate changes that were already made from roadway standards and that sort of thing when we did the multimodal. It's changing to some new pipe materials as available option that was not even manufactured in the 93 revision of the subdivision ordinance. And it's addressing some antiquated stormwater calculations items. I'll let Chris go from there.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry.
No, as Wayne said, we did see some issues with the subdivision regs that we wanted to clarify or update for construction standards, stormwater detention, drainage pipe. There were some clarifying language we put in for driveways and cul-de-sacs. That was based on some experience we had and conversations with the fire marshal. And again, codifying the multimodal details that were passed previously, but now incorporate those in with the subdivision regulations. Again, this is kind of a Band-Aid fix until a deeper dive in the subdivision regs is done in the future. But these were items that we felt really needed to be addressed sooner rather than later, just for ease of the city administering the regulations.
So the process would be that these recommendations will go to the Planning Commission first and then the commission after that for passage. Are there any questions? It's all pretty technical and a lot of it was already the multimodal that was previously addressed or antiquated stormwater. So
Do you know when it'll go to planning commission?
are we going to make it this month or will it be next? It'll be the September Planning Commission. We'll get it advertised and all that. All right. So if there's nothing else, we will move on to the airport MOU. And Ryan will take care of this. This is essentially the MOU with Skyboss that was presented on at the last commission meeting.
Yeah, so this is the MOU. We had it drawn up through legal. Again, in summary, it basically just states that the city is going to commit an obligation of funding to build out the pad, civil engineering, and whatnot that's required to do so. I do want to go into it and just kind of state at this point, we do not have cost estimations for what that would cost. We have never, in the history of the airport that I'm aware of, we've never had a grant of this nature. So this is kind of new to everybody. There's a lot of unknowns with this at this point. There's a lot of things that still need to be addressed and worked out, which will be done so through the civil engineering process. So knowing that, we are still awaiting the engineered estimates. So the financial commitment is somewhat unknown at this point. But again, as you can see with what we have here, it is just basically summarizing that the city is intending to commit a set financial number for that, as the developer is going to need to start ordering materials. And so once that takes place, it would be very difficult for us to go in reverse. So we would need to have that agreement in place. There will also need to be a public-private partnership contract in the future as part of this as well, basically outlining what party is responsible for what, who is financially obligated to do what. Again, just as we've never gone through this before, we will need to ensure that any loose ends in the future are clearly defined, so there is no questions for financial burdens for either party. And it's just simply a way to protect both parties from any unforeseen issues in the future.
One item to keep in mind as we enter into this MOU, we do expect the city's side of this agreement to exceed what the grant pays. We do expect there to be some overages. We don't know what those will be. At this point in time, we are completely guessing as a placeholder number of about $500,000 on top of the 20% that's already matched in the grant. That's a guess. We would love to see it less, but we usually don't. That's our placeholder number at this point in time, and something that once we enter into this, we would be obligated to cover, and something that we at the staff level would like to keep in mind as we're working on the next item, the airport projects, that we are expecting a big out-of-pocket investment in addition to what we're already doing sometime late next year, once this grant's moving forward.
Okay, so are you talking about taking what we said that we were going to appropriate? Because we know we have $300,000 that we're trying to figure out what to do with, where we want it to go. Are you talking about using that for overage? Are you talking about let's go ahead and invest, or we got overage, that money that we can have to come in?
So we've had a conversation about the Chick-fil-A tax money and various places it could go. And staff's recommendation has remained to work on the projects that were put in the budget and see where we come in on this overage. The commission wanted to add some projects to that list, which again is the next item we're talking about. We as staff, though, just want to be very clear, we see this bill coming next year. And if we're going to add projects, we're not talking about taking anything off the approved budget. But if we're going to add projects, to understand that this MOU is sitting at the front of that line. And if it's the will of the commission to add this, again, guess of 500,000 plus more, we can execute. But that has been staff's trepidation with expanding that project list, was wanting to find out what this hard number was to make more informed decisions. Did that answer your question, or did I talk around it?
You answered it, degree. I'm just playing it in my mind because my intentions were, or my understanding was, because we allotted a certain much in our budget for it. And then we had the 300 coming in. I wanted it to go towards the airport. I know there's going to be, we're going to have to add monies. We've done that every year for projects that come in that we've had to add more to.
Right.
I did not want to put it in, I did not want to put the $300,000 in a thing and say, okay, we're going to leave it here, and then if you need something, we're going to pull it out. And the reason I'm saying that is because there is so much that has to be done out there. My thing is safety issues. You know, we need to get the safety issues taken care of and not put off anything anymore. You know, to keep from what we, and of course, the mayor, you know, things that really, because you're more into aviation and all that I am. That's what I'm trying to play. That's what's going on in my mind now. I don't want to put it on hold and say, okay, if something comes in, then we use this. I want it designated for the airport for them to go ahead and be able to use it, because we're already behind the game.
Right. We have not obligated those tax monies yet, and I'll verify with Michelle. I don't believe they've actually hit our coffers yet either.
Okay.
But those monies have not been obligated.
Okay.
That money was outside, the conversation was outside of the projects obligated under our budget that we're already throwing money to. And those projects are mainly focused on the terminal, the interior painting that's been completed, the exterior painting that will be completed as soon as the weather cooperates, the flooring, the counters, et cetera, and a smattering of other things. So that additional 300,000 has not been obligated. And again, that's the next conversation tonight about where we want to go. We just simply wanted to start with, this MOU is going to come with a financial obligation. We don't know what that number is. And so staff's recommendation is to be sensitive to the MOU financial obligation that will come late next year, probably, if we're going to start adding more obligations to the airport. We agree safety is paramount. We believe with the projects in this year's budget, we're addressing the absolute dire immediate needs, but also agree there's no end to the list of projects at the airport to catch up from the last 2 decades. I think everyone's on that same page. What the strategy is to address them and over the next 2 to 3 years is the conversation tonight, right?
Yeah.
And so again, that was the conversation we want to get in front of you. This MOU will be coming to you as soon as the developer gets back from Poland, is able to review it with his attorney. We will be bringing it to the commission for approval and obligation to move forward because of his timeline on needing to get ahead of lead time items.
Yeah.
Michelle's just in time because she can answer some of my questions.
Yeah.
So is it 16 or 18 million in our fund balance right now?
Only more like 17.
It's
So let's say it's
17
17.
something minus the 2.9 that we just obligated. So
Right,
your
so-
next report's going to show that money moved out into an obligated account.
Capital outlay.
So it's going to drop
let's
it
say
down to.
3 million for the parking lot.
Yeah.
Because you also have the signs to put in,
Right.
all that stuff. So it's
So
3
we're down to
million.
14 nominally in fund balance.
All right, so you have 14 million. The playground is in the budget,
300
so it's totally separate.
or 350, and we're expecting 50 to 60 on the merry-go-round, 300. So we're $10,000 to
That's-
$15,000 within the budgeted number.
That's not coming from the fund balance, or is it?
It is.
In
Okay.
case I forget, can we make a note to not rent out this building, that room while?
This
we're-
was-
It was rented before we had to
Okay.
make this move
Because it's a
because,
fifth.
I got you, okay.
Yeah.
yeah, we have it blocked off, but
Okay.
because we could only get two
Yeah,
commissioners.
I get very distracted.
I know. And I went in there and talked to them and just let them know we're having a meeting.
Normally they wouldn't be there because
Yeah.
we would have met
I have
last
fun.
week.
and
So
like,
the
oh,
playground is 3.
We can talk louder.
350,
All right, 350.
plus another 50 in the lights.
Yeah.
So that's 4,
What was the 54, the lots?
25 and 25 for the lights.
Okay. So if we
Plus the
need
library,
500,000 for the airport,
which is the guess number.
we have some fund balance available.
Absolutely. Right now, if you were to take out the 500 for that, the library remodel, et cetera, off of that 14, you would be somewhere 12 and a half.
And we're still comfortable with that for the auditors and the staff?
Yes, yes. With where our current budgeting is, we need to be north of 10 at about 12 and a half. So somewhere in that
Yeah.
10.5 to
We talked
12.5
about
is the number staff is recommending.
Yeah, because what I'm getting at, I think we all talked about it in commission meeting. I think several of us are in agreement that we'd like that 300,000 when it gets here to go towards the airport. Some of those things that we really should accomplish. Because if we're going to have this business come into the airport, there are certain things that they're expecting of us. And safety is number one, of course.
Correct.
And then some of the visual approach stuff, and I can't remember all the
And
acronyms, if you will, but I think we need to really use that 300 and take out the funds, what we need to out of the fund balance for this MOU.
no argument at all. Again, the purpose was to present to you this expected overage 18 months before you see it, so that all decisions going forward at the airport are informed. And 18 months from now, you're not like, city manager, you're killing me with these overages. If we go ahead and put together this plan of say it's 500 plus the 270 something, whatever the exact number
Yeah.
was, no problem. We just felt
Supposed to be 297, but I
290.
think only 277 has come
Okay.
so far as of this month.
Okay, so
Yeah.
270 something is in the bank.
Yeah.
It's still about 20 short.
But in terms of the $1.3 million state grant, that was for job creation.
Mhm.
We initially looked at 2 hangar sites. Now we're looking at 1.
Correct.
We initially looked at a lot of site work, and now we're really not. We're not looking at that much site work because the site they've chosen is a fairly flat piece of land.
There's several retaining walls.
Well, yes, we are gonna have to put retaining walls in, but I think my feeling is the 1.3 is gonna go a lot further than we're giving it credit for going. I think being in the position of Sky Boss, what he's looking for right now is to say, okay, I need this MOU so that I can order a lot of steel to build these facilities. He's going to be making about a $4.5 million investment in our airport. We have no one even close to making that kind of investment. When we got the 1.3 million, I went and spoke with several businesses in Chattanooga at the Chattanooga airport to say, hey, would you be interested in either relocating to Collegedale or building a second location? And the answer across the board was no. I think this is a very unique opportunity for us. There is nothing like this in the United States, I can tell you that. So for him to step up and say, I'm ready to make a $4.5 million investment in your airport, but I need this agreement so that I can feel comfortable ordering the materials and meet this timeline, because he's done construction his entire life. He understands the timelines. And if we delay this MOU, then it will delay the opening of this business. So I think we need to move forward with this MOU. I think it's in everybody's best interest, specifically the city of Collegedale's.
And
And the
staff's
price of steel will go up.
oh, it absolutely will. And depending on what happens with the conversations that are being held on tariffs, steel prices could be very volatile in the fall.
Yeah.
And staff's recommendation is to go forward with this MOU. And staff's recommendation is to this being the number one priority at the airport right now from an ROI perspective. And we just wanted to put this in front of you, let you know that it's coming next month, as soon as the developers' attorneys can look at it, but also get it in front of you before we move on to the project list conversation. If it's okay with y'all, I'll ask Ryan to go ahead and do that, kind of keep both items open simultaneously, because one plays
Give us
off the other.
everything. We want it all.
Yeah, so this is the proposed list need. Obviously, this is certainly not a comprehensive list by no means, but again, like we just talked about, there is a placeholder value at the top for the economic development project overage. As I've said before, I'm prepared to proceed with all of these items that we have on here. We certainly need to complete each of them, and again, it's not a comprehensive list, but I'm ready to go ahead and execute on each of those. But again, we do expect a sizable overage for the economic development project that we do want to consider. While we're on the topic of timeline, we do, at least I want to just state that the timeline is frustrating for all of us, and I recognize that. Wayne recognizes that. It's been my priority to try to stay ahead of them and keep them reminded that we, want to proceed with this as quickly as, as feasible. But it's frustrating for all of us. So just, obviously want to state that it is a state-funded project. It's, a governmental grant, and it's certainly not a timeline that any of us appreciate. But there's not much that we can do on a local level to expedite it. But yeah, again, so that's pretty much all I have to say on that. I'm ready to execute on each of them, but we do need to consider that number at the top there that could be rather sizable.
So to follow up on what Ryan said, we are at the mercy of TDOT. TDOT has been found to be the slowest bureaucratic grant funding operation in the entire nation. We as staff, and Ryan specifically, has driven everything as quick as possible, and we are all frustrated with the timeline now, and we'll get more frustrated. That is simply to inform the commission. This process is going to go slow. The developer unfortunately, has a very aggressive timeline that in a lot of ways probably does not meet what TDOT is capable of doing. Again, railroads moving faster than driveway permits right now through that organization, and we are powerless to move them any quicker. We have turned everything around in half the time that we were given to do it every time, and keep driving. But we do want to make you aware. And also, I do just want to point out, before I lose train of thought, the lease is also included. If you'll skim it as well, it's very similar to the other land leases we've done. The biggest thing is the term is 40 years, not 25 like the last one. That's due to the size of the investment and the ROI on it. Ryan and I did meet with the developer, had hoped to do a 25-year land lease, and the numbers simply do not work. And sat down, you've all reviewed those financials as well. 40 years is what it takes to make it work, but that's also in here as well.
I can tell you from the national projects that AOP, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, is involved with, a 40-year lease is not out of the norm. That is, that for this size investment, that's very common. Some are even going 50.
Yeah, there also is going to be some overages that are accrued. It would be overages for moving our storage shed, the maintenance shed. I did have a contractor out a couple weeks back to give us kind of an idea. I'm still waiting on that number to come back. But that also will need to be considered as we do have to relocate that someplace, as that houses all of our equipment for maintaining the grounds and whatnot. So we do need to keep that in mind as well.
So is the consensus of the commission for us to start getting hard numbers on these projects after the development project overages and then present them at subsequent workshops? Okay. Then that's what we will do. We'll get contractor pricing, discuss it probably monthly or so. and-
No, wait a minute. Say that again. So we're talking about of the 300,000 you're going to get?
Correct. So on the proposed needs, there's just shy of $300,000 in projects. And it's laid out in the director's prioritization. And so what I'm suggesting is that each month or so that the director comes in he starts putting them out to bid. And so he'll do them in series, not in parallel. And then we'll bring them to you. So we'll get bids for the solar LEDs, we'll get bids for the taxi rehab, et cetera, and start bringing those to you.
Yeah, I think all of the items on here are very important. I'm sure to the business Sky Boss, they're critical. There are things that we're trying to move towards. All of these are critical to us getting additional state funding.
Was there a presentation that could have been uploaded from the Sky Boss presentation because it wasn't in the packet when it got presented?
It was the one at the last commission meeting.
Yeah.
But was there like a handout? Because there wasn't anything in the actual packet. I was just making sure the public
was a
doesn't feel
couple
like this,
He,
slipped in.
yeah, he brought
His own
two
handouts.
well, yeah, he brought some visuals, and if I recall correctly, there were some financial assumptions. There was a tentative blueprint and a couple
Yep.
odds and ends in the packet as well.
And I believe it was in the agenda from last commission
I
meeting.
don't remember seeing it in the agenda packet. Could I just get it sent to me?
It was at the end of it.
I'll look again.
If it's not there, let us know.
Okay. I might have skimmed over it.
One of the things that we were very blessed last fall, Mr. Saul Vector, head of TDOT Aeronautics, came to Collegedale. That's almost unheard of for an airport our size. Not only did he spend the day with us, but he committed additional state funds. I would like to see Mr. Saul Vector come back to Collegedale once we can get the terminal building repainted, get a fresh look on it, just to show him that we as a city are willing to make an investment in our airport, and we're not asking the state to do anything that we're not willing to do ourselves. I think that's very important. But with regard to pushing the state to get this 1.3 finalized, I think that meeting in the fall would be critical because the squeaky wheel does get the grease. And I think getting him back to our airport will help push these state funds.
We can reach out in the fall to him once we've done some projects. And
Yeah, and I know that he will make a site visit once the economic development project gets some legs and whatnot. He will come out. I know they just recently went to Crossville for the Whisper Arrow grand opening, so they will come to Collegedale when we begin the project and actually complete it.
So Whisper Arrow, that was the other site that got state funding.
To my understanding, yes.
So they've already gotten their funding?
Well, they were kind of already ahead. So we've, obviously we got this money, what was it, a year and a half or so ago when we actually got it awarded. And then we went through several channels to see different businesses that were interested, different site locations that were
Right.
interested. And so obviously that slowed the process down. My understanding with Whisper Arrow is they already had a designated site. It needed virtually no utility. I mean, everything was there. It was pad ready. They were ready to build, and they moved on it very expeditiously. Obviously with our airport, we have very, very little usable land. So once we did, approach, we had two different businesses that were interested. The ideas that they had and the cost associated with that at the locations on the airport, trying to explore those ideas kind of slowed things down. So that's where we're at compared to them.
But again, to my point, the squeaky wheel does get the grease.
Mhm.
So I think it behooves us to try to make that meeting happen in the fall.
Right. Yeah, and I'll just mention while we're talking about it, we did get the interior of the terminal building completed. So the flooring and the countertops will be presented within the next few weeks. So we're expecting to get that done sometime, hopefully by the end of September, if everything goes well.
Any other conversation? I do want to add that, again, these are unbudgeted, so we would have to catch them at the end of the year when we true up the budget. So,
Excuse me, real quick, if I could, just to clarify, so we are going to go ahead and work on that list of
we'll
proposed
start
needs?
working on it, and you and I can get together on the timing of certain ones.
Okay.
Because minus one of these, it looks like they'll have to be bid out.
Mhm.
And so we'll get together, and timing of the year for the taxiway rehab will probably
Okay.
be a spring project that will roll into next year's repavement budget.
And with the solar lights, will this take care of the
Yeah,
entire
so
way?
that number I have there is a pretty good figure that would complete everything. Yeah.
But since we've been doing it light at a time, it was under spending limit. Now doing it all, we have to put together a whole package. And we'll start working on it.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the Christmas parade update. Christina, if you will tell us where the committee landed and what recommendations were made and
Of
going
course.
from there.
If you want a map, I have copies of it. Pretty simple. It's a mile long, which after talking with everybody about how it's been done in the past and exactly how much of the parade was viewed when it was held over here through the Ottawa folks, it came out to about a mile as well, where the actual not participants, but the viewers were there to watch, came out to be about the exact same as a mile. So right now it's going to be, and I say right now because we are waiting to see if Sukasa, the new church over there, if it finishes in time, then we could actually move our staging area to that church and open up a little bit more parking and viewing area. But as of right now, our staging will start at Cam's and they will turn left going down College Drive East to the light, turning right on University Drive, going through the roundabout and continuing on to Hickman Drive, where they will take a left. And that whole area, that's where the SAU duck pond is, will be saved for the removal of any children off of floats before they decide to go 40 miles per hour down Apson Pike. We will have food trucks around Taylor Circle. I just got told we are not allowed to do anything in the grass area on Taylor Circle because that's their most prized grass area. So we're going to have to change some things around with folks that want to be sponsors, but don't, they actually want to have like tent areas and possibly have more information about their business. And so we're trying to add a little bit to it, but not too much. So we're going to play around with that, but we'll have about 4 to 5 food trucks will be there. I just got, right now we have Frozen Frenzy and Best Coffee that have sent in their agreements for that to start going. The announcement went out on 7/25. Hopefully you guys saw that. We did wait a few extra days because we wanted it to be Christmas in July. But registration to be a sponsor or to be a sponsor with entry or to just be an entry. That is all live on the website. We will not be taking any money or registration in person. We're using, that's why we've got that registration software for things like this to make it a lot easier on us. As you mentioned earlier, saving trees is a big thing for me. So we're just waiting on people to start signing up at this point. Everything's been passed through the police. Hayworth has told us exactly how he's going to shut down the roads, and because of the location of it, we'll actually be able to save some staff time and open roads and close roads faster because we will not be using all these barriers. We're actually going to use the cars and the staff that we have, so it will be very quick shut down and open up. Yeah.
Christina, thank you for all your work on it. I'm very glad that we're bringing the Christmas parade back again. I am hearing a lot of community disappointment though. And I think having it on that side of the city is the main cause. But I also think there was an expectation that I know I had an expectation, and I think some community members that had an emotional investment in it as well, expected that once the committee met, it was going to come to the commission, for the commission to discuss what the committee discussed, and for us to have conversation about it.
Why did they have that expectation when that's not what was done in the past?
This is the first time we've ever done a committee for the parade.
Ted did one several years ago, which he chaired,
Yes,
which I
was
intentionally
part of
did
the
not sit
committee
on,
every year.
so that it was impartial.
Maybe it's because the parade was killed and this was the first year it was coming back, so they thought it would come to the commission. I certainly thought it was coming back to us. I thought that's how we communicated, but then we were told it was not our purview.
Staff is executing the parade that the commission said they wanted, and we did it through the committee that the commission asked for, and we followed their recommendations.
No one thought that this was just going to come back for a commission just for a final stamp of what we wanted or what we saw envisioned.
I understood that because we had a commissioner that was aligned to it, to represent, like we do for all the departments and everything that we do, there's a commissioner put on it. And that commission comes back, Christina's coming back. I met with them every time. To my knowledge, I've met with them every time. And we discussed it, we tried all the avenues of looking at it. Then we were going to bring back with what our recommendation was, that we need to do it this way. I didn't get the impression we were supposed to bring it back for it to be voted on. Did y'all? Did I misunderstand?
No, that would have
We
been
ne-
completely
Historically,
outside.
we never
We never
voted
done
on
that, so I just thought we had someone there to say, okay, yeah, we'll agree with this. No, we will not agree with that, you
Correct.
know?
There was a commission representative on the committee.
Right.
Historically, it has never come to the commission for a vote. Again, historically, the city manager dictated that committee by appointing himself and then appointing his subordinates, which
Yeah,
we did not do this year, so that it could be more open, more free-flowing, and come to a true committee recommendation.
because we looked at, the people that were on the committee it was well-rounded. It represented, like McKee's and other corporations. We had the police officers there, traffic control, doing things there. I more or less listened and then put in avenues that this is something that we have to take, we'll take this type of thing into consideration, especially with the laws and permits and things like that. So after going through everything and looking at the scope of everything, because I wanted it to come through here. I like to go time post, or I should say pre-COVID, that because of the situation, how our city's grown and everything, I found that sometimes there was some things that might be a little bit not as safe as it would have been. I would like to see us go back, because the biggest thing I had with, okay, if we can shut down for certain things, this area, like we did for 4th of July, why couldn't we shut it down for less hours for the parade?
Because you have it on Sunday, and that's when McKee comes and goes.
Right, there was.
It was the start, stop. It
Yeah.
was a much broader shutdown.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't just be a block of Appleton Pike. It included multiple other feeders.
Yeah, we have also incorporated different businesses. We've added businesses, which when I spoke with some of the people that I spoke with, someone said, well, I'm not going to be open Sunday, so it won't matter. If I did it on Saturday, we have a problem. not just because, and not because that was the Sabbath for the community, because we're more diverse. My Sabbath is on Sunday, but all days we serve God, we're supposed to. But they said it would interfere with their business. So that's what I looked at. So with taking everything in consideration, with everybody that was on the board, not just something I decided or Christine decided, but looking at all things, this was what we came up with that would be best to start it with. Then we could look at it, see how it does, and make changes for next year, how we could do it better. But just to get us back in there,
Yes.
you know.
Get you a successful parade first and then refine it after that was our
Yeah.
goal this year. And in all transparency, the parade I envisioned in my mind is not this one, which means the committee did it exactly as they were requested to do, is they came up with a recommendation on how to execute. And we have a very solid plan. Police is very comfortable with our traffic control plan. The university is, Parks and Rec is, et cetera.
And what is the date of the parade?
It's December 8th. It's a Sunday,
What time?
3:00.
3:00.
Yep.
That's what it's been
Yeah.
historically in the past.
Yep, always
Sunday
wrong.
afternoon.
Always has been.
Yep.
I've been here 25 years and it's always been, except for the years we didn't have it because of COVID.
Mhm.
And it worked out well. It also worked out well for schools to participate on that day, especially like ROTC programs, everything that wanted to march, or clubs that wanted to march or be a participant. It was easier and it didn't.
It's
conflict with
interesting
each other.
this topic came up today because went to Outfit last night with my wife and went to Los Patos down here. There's a table of 12 people sitting there that I knew, and they jumped me, and most of them are Seventh-day Adventists. And they said, why are we doing it on the university side? It needs to be here in the heart of this side of the city. So there's food for thought on both sides. I think we really, when this is all said and done, we look at it, can we do it? I know there's blinders on people not wanting to do it over here, but we need to get those blinders off. There's a way to fix it. There's a way to do it. And I think we have to look at that, because I've heard it not from that group, I've heard from several groups.
And there will be 400 apartments that will say, why in the world did you close Debbie?
I'm not saying close Little Debbie all the way. I mean, there are ways you can feed people through there.
But it goes all the way, in the past, it started at Jack Kate, so that's hitting all of those.
I get it, but see, you got your blinders on. You take the blinders off, and you think of ways to solve it. That's what I'm trying to get at.
We've done it that way in the past, coming and turning
The-
and coming this way.
The committee looked at all of those factors, and this was their recommendation, was to do it on that side of the community. And the last year that we did it over here before COVID, there were lots of complaints, more than 12, from business owners and that sort of thing, from not getting access to their business, for being shut down, for trashing the parking lot, et cetera. And again, the committee looked at all of those things and decided that doing it on that side of the city was the least impactful for those who did not want to be involved. It gave the best viewing opportunities, the safest viewing opportunities, and frankly, the most aesthetic viewing opportunities, because let's be honest, 5-lane road's ugly.
Now, I understand
Just
it was
is.
there originally at one time.
Yes, it was there in the 90s. All my childhood memories are of Pastor Herman on the back of a Tricom truck at university throwing out candy canes. So this is getting back to what it historically was. It got shifted to this side of the city when Mr. Ray was using it as an advertisement opportunity for his golf carts. But the historical parade was on the other side, as in conjunction with the university. And again, the committee that the commission asked for came to this conclusion. And what we'd like to do is deliver you a successful parade this year.
But it doesn't sound like the university wants to be a part of our parade per se, because we couldn't do it the same night as the.
They did not. They thought it got to be too
So
much.
that's okay. I mean, that's okay. I'm not holding it against them or anything, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think that we really need to look at it in fairness from that perspective. I don't know that we need to go back in time and say we did it over there. We need to go back to the old days and doing it. Let's think outside the box and see what we can come up with.
I think we can find a way.
Once it's all said and done.
Safely come down, because I still prefer coming through the city, but I'm wise enough to know it's not feasible at this time.
Right. So-
Okay.
so-
So we can work to see how we can make it more feasible the next time, because we're wanting to come up here and let it possibly be part of the Christmas tree lighting that we would have and all that, which I think would be great. But then you have to accommodate 10 to 20,000 people.
All of those logistics arguments the committee looked into and came to the recommendation that they did. And frankly, it's a very sound one for very technical reasons. And so what I would suggest is let's execute this year. Let's do it.
But I think before we even talked about the committee, y'all shot down closing Epsom Pike quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's
not just
inherently
the committee.
unsafe. I mean, let's
Yeah,
go
the
ahead and
police
start with
was-
Let's talk real. I mean, that's truly what happened.
Yeah, because it's inherently unsafe.
Yeah, and
But we can have that
Well, everything
conversation.
should be
doing
unsafe.
that from the
Long-
police
Over there,
department.
If it's inherently unsafe, are we gonna move the fireworks to the east side of the city and shoot them from Thatcher Switch?
You don't have those on Sunday, is a rule.
Right, and there's a difference between closing one block of Appleton Pike and closing the only access to 400 residents.
But it's just for a couple of hours.
Correct. It's an apples and oranges comparison, and we're saying because they're both on a plate that they're the same. They're not. It's a different comparison. And again, we would like to deliver you a successful parade this year. And just like the next item on here is Freedom Festival wrap up or recap. We'd like to have that conversation. Sorry.
Before you leave the parade, the Christmas parade, think outside the box and consider having it at night. Cleveland has theirs
So
on
light,
Saturday
yeah.
night.
Yeah. that's-
For
So
lighting.
that's,
And it's very nice because it usually happens up there around my birthday and we were always there in a restaurant. We got to watch it
Is
as
that,
we
So-
went by the restaurant.
when I spoke earlier about this not being the exact parade I envisioned, which giving props to the committee, what I envisioned was a nighttime parade. It makes several things in my mind more enjoyable, especially for a crowd in my age bracket that's not worried about getting candy. But again, the committee came to this recommendation, and we want to deliver you a successful parade and then have this conversation afterwards. Nighttime, I'm sure location is always going to be a major point of comment, just like the timing's always going to be a major point of.
We're going to need new Christmas lights and things like that, posed and put up for it to be seen to be done at night, because I like the lighting. You know, downtown does lighting, East Ridge. They've done it in the afternoon at night too.
This, and we've
Well, we can't be
budgeted.
unique.
We've budgeted $25,000 this year to start on that process. It's not going to get it all done. It is simply a start on it. We've also started gathering pricing. They're waiting to get me firm numbers for the Christmas lights at Collegedale. We're working with the CTF Foundation to lay it out so that they all match cohesively and go from there.
Well, I would like to also say, I think a nighttime parade would be great, but I do not want to see it happen on a school night.
No.
A Sunday night parade, I think is just completely, it's defeating because kids have got to get home at a decent hour. They got to get to bed, and having something on a Sunday night just doesn't work. I think Saturday night is
East
the way to
Ridge
go.
was on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I know the Cleveland one is always on a Saturday night. So it's would be a good time to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why can we not, and I don't want to sound disrespectful or anything, because I'm very, very careful about what everyone's beliefs are, okay? But from my understanding, is sundown Friday to sunup,
Sundown
Saturday? So if you did it at night on a Saturday, that wouldn't interfere, would it, with either denomination? If we're wanting to look at it that way, it's not supposed to interfere with any, because you have to separate state and church. You know, but we try to keep everything for our community. We got to be sensitive to our community.
Why don't we just get through the Christmas parade and we can talk about it?
That's
Beg your
what I
pardon?
was
Get through the
thinking.
Christmas parade.
Exactly. That's our
And then
recommendation or thought process now. Let's do this one and then pick it apart and do better
Yeah.
next year.
And then take in consideration, if the results we get back from the feedback from people,
Hmm.
strongly take that in consideration and move it, you know, if we need to a Saturday night to have the lights, because I'd like to have the lights, and that would be interfering with school services. Kids are out of school anyway for 2 weeks during Christmas, not during the 8th, though. They don't get out till between the
No,
17th and the
Not
23rd.
early.
Right.
And what's the date of the event at the Commons?
December 1st.
Okay. So we're a
Two
week
Sundays
apart
in a
on the
row.
two events.
What's that?
We're a week apart on the two events.
Correct.
Correct.
Which
Just-
helps with staffing and volunteer needs.
Yep. So they're a week apart, both on Sundays, and on December the 1st, there is going to be the Patriots Run. The name has changed a couple of times. There will be a 7-mile, 5K, 1-mile fun run and short jog that morning. And then we will immediately, staff will roll into setting up for the Christmas event that Sunday evening on the 1st, like we had last year. And then the subsequent Sunday will be the parade.
But again, I would encourage us, let's get away from Sunday night. It's a school night.
Yeah.
There are a lot of parents who just aren't going to bring their kids. And they got to get them home, got to get them bathed, got to get them ready for school the next day. I feel like we'd be much better off doing a Saturday evening event. And let's get away from the school night.
So not for tonight's conversation. These events are scheduled and planned. But I would like to have a larger conversation in this same vein as it relates to the Freedom Festival. Next year is great. Next year is absolutely great because the 4th of July falls on Friday. So Thursday night on the 3rd makes all the sense in the world. It should have the day off, etc. The year after that, with the 4th falling on Saturday, is going to put us in an awkward situation. I've talked to the symphony, and they're not willing to play on Friday night or because of drive time and setup on Saturday either. And I don't want to expand this conversation beyond just putting it on your radar that in the coming months, we need to have a larger conversation on Freedom Festival, parades, et cetera, and preferred nights and inclusivity amongst all members of our community, not just non-Adventists and Adventists, et cetera. Again, just want to put it out there as something that's been in my mind for a little while as we were getting into this Freedom Festival wrap-up. So I'm going to move into this one. It appears we're then going to be out of time. If it's not too terribly offensive, we'll push these next two to next month's meeting, since I don't believe they are time sensitive, and go from there.
I do have 2 things I need to say real quick.
Let's say them now.
Huh?
Then let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and say them now.
Okay. Question for Maggie, right, Maggie? So on the disability of the playground, what all is considered disabled equipment that you're going to have there? I know there's some for the people who are sensitive.
It's differently abled. Differently abled.
We have the musical instruments under the deck, the storefront panels under the deck, the music, the animal sounds tracker panel, along with shade for kids who might be on extra medications, need to retreat from the sun.
Okay.
When I email you the quotes, I'll send you a screenshot of these.
Yeah, but is there anything like somebody in a wheelchair? Is there anything new with this playground that,
The music would be,
The merry-go-round.
yeah, Mary Got will have it? Okay.
and then the entryway climber as well.
Okay. The last thing I have is we've talked about the park and regs that we passed.
Yes.
No fires in the park.
And I,
9/11's coming up soon. Our veterans will be there. And they'll have a fire.
Mhm.
They didn't do it on the flag burning day because they didn't want to go against our city policy. We need to get this.
I've spoke to them on that, and we have a agreed upon resolution.
Okay, but will we change our regs on that for military type programs?
I don't have it drafted in front of you now. I absolutely can. But I have an agreement with them for them to. do
Okay.
that. And we can talk about that more in detail in the future. So I'm going to try to run through this pretty quick. If we run out of time, it looks like we have about 3 minutes so that we can make it with this weather. Freedom Festival recap, opportunities for improvement. In general, I received a lot of very good feedback about the music selection this year. Thought it went really well. I and the mayor spoke briefly. I had expected the symphony to play all the way through the fireworks, and when I met with friends at the festival, it's been made clear to them that what we would like to do is add some more time for the pie tasting contest because that went so well, and then push the symphony back to where they are playing all the way through. Additionally, we have some opportunities for improvement for ADA parking. What we envision and with the Friends of the Festival, the easiest way to address that is to move the vendor parking to Swinier on street. They're already doing parking placards. If we move them to on street, we can then expand ADA parking into those. It'll give us about 40 spaces, which would better fit the need. Some of the feedback I received was it's great to have designated parking at the library. It gets full, but if you're someone who's not necessarily wheelchair bound, but say in a walker, and you park, you walk that entire distance over, you sit through the night's events. By the time the night's over, the walk back is very strenuous. And so expanding some of that parking over there and working with TRICOM, I've not talked to them about this yet, since there's a lot of side-by-sides and folks that were not busy at that time. I'd like to see if they can help shuttle some of the disabled folks as well. But those were the biggest improvements or refinements that I saw and received feedback on. And I'd like to open up to the commission. What other refinements did you see or feedback did you receive that we can work on?
I felt like they discharged the fireworks a little too early. Maybe we should make it more like a 10 p.m. so it's solid dark. I don't know if anyone else thought it was still a little too light outside.
I thought it was, I didn't think it was half an hour too early. I thought it was a good 10 minutes too early.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so that's something
We
we
could look
can,
at that a little better.
we can easily push it back to 9:40. Again, as we're working on this band scheduling, et cetera, we do need a little more time for that pie festival, and everyone I saw participating in it loved it. I mean, from all of y'all to Bo Watson and Greg Vital, et cetera, and it was very well attended. So I'd like to expand on that as well. Any other
The only
feedback?
comment I heard was that they thought that the finale of the fireworks was not as good as they had been in the past.
I
But
had heard that too.
And they wondered if the company, because of the increased cost of fireworks, maybe cut back on some of the shots. That was the feedback I heard as far as fireworks.
It kind of seemed like the shells were really spaced apart. Were they charging us by the minute?
They were not. It's a fixed cost contract. What our understanding was, and I just don't have the numbers, when we went up, was it last year, the year before?
Year before.
Year before, when we went up in cost, that it was to keep the same show and cover that overage. Now, was there an even bigger overage that may have resulted there? I'm not sure, but Chris and I will have that conversation with them before we enter into contract again and tell them what our expectation is and to backfit into that. While we're having that conversation, Friends of the Festival did tell me production costs are up. And so they're going to need a couple of $1,000s more for next year, probably pushing it to the 28 or 28.5 number. And so once we get that nailed down, I'll bring that to you as well. I've got to get with Sam on some of the procurement sides of it as well.
Are we under contract where we have to use them again?
We're not. We use them on an annual basis. We've worked with a couple of other organizations that withdrew, told us they were no longer interested to do it and didn't do as good of a job, and didn't do as good of a job on lining up the press side of it. The Friends of the Festival by far has done a better job than the two other organizations we've worked with. And that's one of the questions with procurement is who else is left in Chattanooga that could provide that service? Is it a sole source or is it an out to bid situation? I just don't have the answer. They're the only ones I'm aware of that are still actively doing this.
So to get people around, we used to use Southern's carts. They had like 4 or 6 seats.
We still use a couple. I don't think.
Is there a place we can rent some of those and we can have people designated to take people back and forth? I mean, when the fireworks is all over, it's going to be a madhouse and finding those people is going to be hard, but at least we could get them there.
There's some opportunities on exactly how we address that. I'm not sure yet, but it was a need that was expressed to me. The magnitude of it, I'm not sure. What time we do that, how we do that, I just don't know yet. If it's simply adjusting parking, that's one thing. That was the easiest. And then relying or asking a favor from someone like TRICOM, because I saw multiple side-by-sides with people not using them at 10 o'clock.
We borrow those. we don't have them.
Right, but if Tricom volunteers could operate rather than me having to pay, us renting 3 or 4 golf carts is easier than renting 3 or 4 plus paying $25 an hour to have somebody drive it. And so those are some of the things that I saw and would like to work on to improve next year.
Do we bid out the fireworks themselves?
We do every couple of years. There's only
Having a good time.
really about 2 companies, I believe, on the last go round. And I think we're up for a rebid, but I'll have to double check.
Because I heard the same complaint. It seemed like it was just not as big a show.
Whoever does the ones at the lookouts, I mean, they really are spectacular.
Yeah. And it may be the same folks with a bigger number on it, but we'll get all that nailed down as we get into this. Because I really do believe that this is a rebid year, because this was the second year at the raised number. And again, it would not surprise me if, when they raised it 2 years ago, they felt like it wasn't raised adequately for this year's show. Is there anything else? Will, I'm sorry I ran 5 minutes over. I'm going to have to adjourn a little early. We'll move these next 2 items on to next month's meeting.
I sent you an email. Matter of fact, the gentleman just come and somebody that I met in Knoxville has been lighting, flags and all that.
Mhm.
And so I forwarded the information to you.
Okay,
So you can see.
thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, I guess I won't give mine either.
I got it.
I was going to commend Red